Hi, I'm Mark. Welcome back to Foothill Paint Fabrication. Well, today we're going to tackle something I've been thinking about doing, wanting to do for a long time, and that's put power windows in the GTO. So a lot of you know, if you have a GMA body, you've looked at the kits, and they're $800, $900, $1,000 for these kits to do all four windows. Well, I think we can do it for $35 a window. So I've got a door off the donor car. That's not off Ruby, my project car. This happens to be off a hardtop. Ruby's a sedan or a sport coupe. So, but the regulators look to be exactly the same. So this should work on a hardtop or a sport coupe sedan. So what we're gonna do is take the regulator out and we're gonna convert it over to power windows using the factory regulator, but just adding a motor to it. So let's jump in here and I'll show you what I plan on doing. Okay guys, what you're going to need to make this conversion to power windows is a window regulator motor, and this happens to be off a 1993 to 2002 Camaro or Firebird, or a 1990 to 2001 Astro van. They're exactly the same. So, and I got this off Amazon for $24, okay? So the important part of this whole thing was to make sure the pitch on this gear matched the pitch on the big gear on your window regulator. That big gear is called the sector, and the pitch on that has to match this pitch exactly, or it's just not going to work. So $24 for the window regulator, and we have to have a plug to plug it in. And all the plugs I found to fit this, buying them brand new, they were almost as much as the window regulator motor. So I dug around on Rock Auto and I found this plug. It's identical, and it's for the door lock actuator connector off a 2005 Astro van. So this was $11, all right? So 35 bucks. So this is for reals. I think we can do it. So let's get the window regulator in over here. We're gonna talk about how we're gonna do it, and then we'll have to strip that down so we can find a way to get this motor onto it. Okay, I've never been able to get one of these regulators out without removing the wind wing channel, or basically the whole wind wing assembly, because it's trapped. It's right here and it goes all the way over here. It's trapped between them, and I've never been able to get it out. Maybe somebody can, but I can't. So I'm gonna just set the camera back. We're gonna get the wind wing out. So we got a screw here, we got a screw here, there's a bolt here, a bolt down here, an adjuster down here, and that will free that up. And so the first thing I wanna do is lower the glass. I'm gonna try to lower the glass, take it off the stop, and just take it out of the channel, and just park it down inside the door just to make it easier, not having to remove the glass. And then I'm gonna get that out, and then we can finally get the regulator out. So let me fiddle with this a little bit. Like I said, I'm gonna set the camera back and just kind of go for it. All right, I'm gonna fight this thing. This roller is stuck in the channel, so it's gonna take some work. So I'm gonna do that off camera, probably some cussing involved, but I gotta loop that up and get it to jiggle back and forth till it'll actually slide right. And then we can slide the glass off the window regulator rollers, and then we can take the last bolts out and fish that out of there. Okay, like usual, when you try to save some time, it costs you more time. There was a piece of the wiper jammed down, it broke off and it fell down in the channel, and it was jammed down in there, and I didn't see it, and I couldn't get the wheel out, so I had to take the glass out. So it's okay, one way or the other, doesn't matter. So I've got it, the regulator cranked kind of in the middle here. Let's see if we can get it out. Okay, so we got the regulator out. Let's go back up the bench and we'll talk about what we're going to do to it. Okay guys, here's the regulator we just removed. That's off the driver's side door of the donor car. Now, I've already done some prototype work on the driver's side door regulator for my project car, Ruby. So I can't show you that because it's almost already done. What we will do is go ahead and set this one aside and move over to the passenger side door regulator for my project car. So there's no reason for me to make a whole nother left one. I don't need two, that's for sure. So I'm gonna set this one aside and we're gonna get to work on this one. Okay, the first thing we wanna do is get this spring off of here. It's wound up pretty tight and it'll get you pretty good. If you drill the rivets out and pull this gear out, this whole thing will move really quick and get you. It got me because I was being stupid. So we're gonna go ahead and crank that till it unloads that spring as far as we can get it. And then you just have to figure out how you can either pry it out of that slot, but I found that it's a little easier getting it right here on the lock. So get yourself a big pair of pliers and you're just gonna wrestle it up a little bit till you catch. Just like that. Now we can go ahead and take it off. Now, I'm not entirely sure if we need the spring or not. If the motor's strong enough, I'm gonna leave the spring off. But we do want to save it just in case. So I'm going to set it aside and we'll figure that out later as we experiment. Now I only have gone so far on my prototype, so a lot of this will be brand new for me. So let's go ahead and, the next thing we need to do is drill out these rivets to hold this gear. We do not need this gear anymore. We don't need any of this assembly. So let me grab a drill bit, probably a 1/4 inch, and I can drill all these little rivets out and we'll pop that right off. All right, let's see if we can get these drilled out. There we go. Okay, that's it. So now that exposes the sector where it goes right through there, right there. So the idea is we are going to install, now this is where the door panel goes on the car. So the motor has to install on the back side here. So that's going to require some cutting and then fabricating of a bracket to hold the new motor. So let me, I'm going to go ahead, this thing's all greasy and nasty. I'm going to go ahead and get it all cleaned up real nice and I'll bring you back after that and then we'll get to work on prepping this for the new parts. Okay, we got it all cleaned up real nice so we can work on it without getting all greasy. There's one thing you guys need to know. There is only one motor for these. There's not a left and right side. There's not a front to back. There's just one motor as far as I can tell. Every motor I can order, it's this exact same configuration, so it's not like it's flopped for the other side. So it will be a little bit different from the left to right side when you're doing this. So the thing is, we have to get this gear into there. Okay, and this is the door panel side, so it actually needs to mount about like that, and needs to be about at that angle. We'll figure that out in a minute what the angle needs to be. So we need to make room by cutting this area out, and that's our first step. So let me go ahead and get in close, and we had a cutoff wheel, and we'll cut that off. All right, we got it flipped over, and you can clearly see the hump here, and there's the bushing that the other one spun on to keep it centered up against the sector. So all we're going to do is come in with the cutoff wheel, just like this, nice and flat. Just hold it flat to here and just push all the way through. All right, and then all we have to do is clean that up a little bit. All right, looks pretty good. Let's move back over to the other bench. Okay, now that we got that piece cut out of the way, we can get the motor in here and see how it fits. And it fits really nice, okay? So, and these motors have really tall gears on them. So there's plenty of room. So if the sector walks back and forth a little bit, you don't have to worry about it skipping a tooth. And you can tell that the pitch is right on the money. So this is gonna work out good. Now, how do we mount this motor to this frame? Because this is what's going to be bolted to the door, okay? So we need to build some sort of plate right here. So we need a plate that'll bolt, and we can use these mounting holes right here to attach it. That way, then we can build from there to attach that plate to this regulator arm. So to do that, I've got a piece of file folder here. This stuff, I love using this stuff. It works great. It's just the right thickness and stiffness to make templates out of. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a Sharpie and a pen, and I'm going to trace this shape right here and then this radius right here, so I can make a plate out of some. I think I got some 14 gauge, plenty of thickness for what we're doing here. And then we can get a plate. And then once we get a plate bolted on here, then we can build from there and get the plate attached to this bracket. So let me draw something up real quick and I'll bring you back. Okay, I've got the little template made up. It fits on here really nice, and I cut out, I didn't want to get too close to the gear because this is where the gear housing pushes through, and we need to attach something on there. Now remember, the way this sits, this sector is going to be moving, okay? These two pieces will be stationary, so that sector is passing between them. Now this works to get us something to bolt to the motor. Now we actually have to attach that plate to this, this bracket right here, but it needs to hold it up a little bit, okay? We need a gap in between there so this sector gear can slide through there and not rub on the motor and not interfere with anything else. So that's our next step. And to do that, we need to have some half round piece of metal in there. So using a piece of 1.5" pipe, we can do that right there. So all we have to do is figure out what distance this pipe needs to be cut. So then we can cut this pipe, slice it so it's the C shape right there, and then that will actually weld. Let me get that back in frame. We can actually weld that right on there just like that. The plate will weld to this, and then we'll have our attachment point. So let me figure out the thickness on that. And then we'll take a look at what we got worked up. And I think we're getting really close to cutting some metal here and try to put this thing together. Okay, so now you can see the gap right here we have to fill, and you can see the sector rubbing right on here on this plate. So what we need to do is we need to elevate that just about like that. So we have some clearance, but we still have plenty of teeth engagement, and then we don't have this stud down too low. So we're going to figure out exactly what height we need, and then we're going to cut a piece of that 1.5", and then we're going to split it into a C, and then we can slide it in there. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this plate right here, get that made up so we have something to work from, actual thickness, then we can calculate that. So let me get that knocked out, and then we're going to start figuring out what height we need right here. Okay, we got that plate cut and the holes drilled, and I've got a couple of screws and nuts holding it together so nothing moves, so we're good there. I also have the window regulator bracket propped up so it's laying nice and flat, and now all we have to do is figure out what height we need to keep the sector from rubbing on that motor too much. So I've got some blocks here, and I tried a few different blocks, and I found one that's 3/8 thick, and that looks just about right to hold that up. Now, the sector was kind of trapped before between the mechanism and the housing, and to keep it from kind of wandering back and forth, so we don't want to go too wide. So I think 3/8 is going to be just about right, so it kind of traps that sector inside there, and it keeps it centered on the gear. So I think 3/8 of an inch, so we have to cut a piece of 1.5" pipe 3/8 of an inch tall, and then cut it so it's like a C shape so we can weld it onto the bracket, and then ultimately weld it onto the window regulator bracket. So I'm going to go cut a piece off at 3/8 of an inch long, and then we'll cut it down, and then we'll slide it in here and see how it looks. All right, we got the piece cut. It's sitting in there, looking good. I think what we want to do is weld that piece to the window regulator bracket first. That way we make sure it doesn't interfere with the sector. Then we have to figure out how to clock this motor before we weld that to the bracket, because we don't want this motor turned in such a way so it's going to interfere with the inside sheet metal of the door. So let me go ahead and get this welded on right here. Then we can move over to the door and figure out how to clock this motor, and then we can tack that on there, and then we can start testing. Okay, we got it placed up here on the welding table, and I've got it just on the edge here. I kind of put the motor on there and then kind of lined it up, put some Sharpie marks so I know how to do it. and we're going to tack it on there. Everything's going to be tacked together until we're sure it's going to work right, and then we can do a full weld on it. But for what we're doing here, 2 or 3 good tacks should do the job. Okay, we've got the window regulator bolted back in. You can see the sector right there. And I've got the motor in here. So what we want to do is raise it up and see if it's going to lay flat up against that bracket we just welded on, that piece of pipe. And it feels like it's laying up there really nice. We're going to center that. And so then we'll just rotate this motor, and it feels pretty good right here. So we can see it's hitting right here, and if I move it over, it's hitting right there. So we'll find somewhere about in between, just like that. So it looks like it's going to fit in here really nice and clean. That's great. Now we don't have to worry about cutting any of the sheet metal, and we have a nice opening here to plug it in. So that works out really well. The next thing I want to do though is support this shaft. Now this shaft does not turn. The gear turns on the shaft, but the shaft does not turn, but I want to support it so it's supported on the motor side and on this side. So to do that, we need to make a plate that welds onto here with a hole in it that'll protrude through, and that'll hold it nice and stable when it's all put together. So let's go ahead and pull that window regulator bracket out, and we'll get to work on making that plate. Okay, so I've got it set up here similar to what it was just inside the door, and if I put a straight edge across here, that shaft is just basically flush across there, maybe a little bit under. So we want to make a piece that'll slide just inside of here and sit down. And the reason for that is because this is the mounting surface right here that goes on the door, inside of the door sheet metal, right? So we don't want anything sticking up above that. So I want whatever we make to sit flush right across here. And to do that, then we're just going to center that. So what we're going to do is basically, just like the other part, we're going to get a piece of this paper, and then I'm going to trace that out, figure out how to make it work, and then we'll have it come all the way down to here, just about to this spot right here. And we can tack it here and here, a couple of spots up here just to test it out. This, I measured this shaft, and it's 5/16, so then we'll have to drill a 5/16 hole in that. So let me get after this with a Sharpie and make a template up, and then we'll get some steel cut and see if we can't make a little plate to fit right in there. Okay, I got a little template made up and the hole punched right where I want it, and it's got the bracket centered right there. So instead of trying to flip the whole thing over and make it work, I need it to be on the inside of that sheet metal. So all I'm going to do is just go ahead and rub this on the inside there, and that should leave a crease, just like making a gasket. So we should be able to just trim it from the other side, and then we'll have our template. Yeah, I can see the crease line right there. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it with the scissors, and then we'll get some metal cut up here. Okay, I've got the motor set pretty much, I think, right where it belongs. I've got the teeth fully engaged into the sector. I'm not worried about them binding. There's enough play in that, so I want them fully engaged, and I think just enough play will give it the clearance it needs. We're a little close right here on that gear touching right here, but it's not going to touch. But if I think it's getting too close, we'll just take the burr tool and open that up a little bit. So if we lay this plate on here, and that hole fits, pin fits really tight inside that hole, and so that's sitting down there really good. It's getting it centered this way. So we're looking really good. The problem is it's not sitting down, it's sitting up on top. So I actually need it to recess down inside here a little bit. So I need to trim this back a little bit. And I'll do that off camera. I'll fiddle with it a little bit. We're really close here, but this side needs a little bit more taken off of it. So let me get that ground up and ready to go, and then we'll get this tacked on. Okay, we got it laid down in there nice and flush. So let's go ahead and get it tacked. All right, I'm going to knock those smooth real quick, and then we're going to go back to the door, get this clock perfect, mark it, and then bring it back and get it tacked, and we'll do some testing. Okay, so the regulator's back up in there, the bracket, and we got the motor, and this is the plate we just welded on. You see how nice and clean that is. So all we have to do is get the gear to line up here, make it through that nicely fitting hole. And once again, we're going to just clock this, and I'm going to do it about in the center. I don't want to take a chance. So we're going to do it about there. And then all I have to do is come over here, put a straight line down and over just like that. So all we have to do is line that up and get that tacked over on the bench. Since we put this plate in, now we don't have to worry about that walking around. It's pivoting perfectly right there, see? So the only thing I can see that could be a problem later on is changing out the motor where you can't, kind of get to it easily because these screws are going to be hidden back here. So I'm going to I'll put the screws that way and I'll tack those screws so you can reach around your hand up through there and just take the nuts off. And then it'll be like 4 little studs, and then you get the replacement motor. It's got the exact same bolt pattern. You slide it up there, put the nuts back on, and you replace your motor that way instead of having to pull the whole regulator out. So let me get all this out again. We'll get that tacked, and we're going to bring it right back and get some wires on this thing and see how it works. Okay, I don't have a battery laying around, so I'm going to use a battery charger. See how she works. Looks pretty good. Go back the other way. Feels pretty strong to me. Let's. I think we're going to go ahead and put the. Motor back on, the one that'll fit this old door, so I can put the glass and everything in it, and then we'll get a real test. We'll know if we need that spring or not, and then we'll just get a good idea how it goes up and down once it's all installed. And if it works out, then this prototype is good. We can start doing some final welding on some of this stuff later on. But really excited. That seemed to work very smoothly. No grinding, no binding, no nothing. So give me a few minutes to start putting that door back together, and then we'll see how this thing works in real life. Okay guys, got it all put back together. It's not adjusted perfect or anything, but it's operational. So let's check it out. Just got the battery charger hooked to it. Goes down pretty fast. Let's go back up. That's a real test going up, right? So I've cycled it, I don't know, 6 or 8 times since I got it, working right. And I think I want to, unfortunately, take it apart and put the spring back in and then see how that operates. So we can check it out one more time. We'll do a quick little before and after. Without the spring, going down. And without the spring going up. So let me go ahead and kind of tear this part apart again and go ahead and get the spring back on there, and I'll bring it back when we're ready to do a with the spring in test. But it's going to take me a little bit. Basically, I got to take the whole thing apart to get that regulator back out. So I'll be right back. Okay guys, got it all put back together. The spring is on the window regulator, and if nothing else out of this project, I'm getting really good about tearing it all apart and putting it all back together. So let's check it out with the spring installed on the way down. So that seemed a lot smoother to me. I've run it up and down a few times. Before it was a little like a free fall without the spring. So let's check it out going up with the spring installed. So you can see that was a little bit better. I had a little bad connection there. Let me try it again. So down is really good. Let's do up again. So I really think the spring is way to go. And this is just run off a battery charger. So a real battery, I'm sure it would work a lot better and a lot faster and a lot smoother. So really, for what they're charging about $250 a window for power window kits, right? Well, we're doing it for 24 bucks. You can't beat that deal. If you want to buy the plug, that's another 11, so you're out 35 bucks. Now, if you went to the junkyard and got off a Camaro or Firebird, you could get, like the switches and part of the harness with the plug on it. And then so you'd be, part of the way there, because you're going to still need switches and everything, to make this work. But the mechanics inside the door, I think this is the way to go. It's very simple. You guys saw it. A motor, a little bit of steel, little ingenuity, and a welder and we've got power windows in this previously non-powered window car. Now this is out of a 67, this is the hardtop. It'll work on the Sport Coupe, the sedan, and then I'm sure the 64 to 67 had the exact same window regulator. And really all that matters is that that sector gear matches the motor gear. So if you're not sure, you just order one motor, take your window regulator out, put it on that sector and make sure that you can roll it around there and they line up and you'll be gold. Then all you have to do is just follow what I did today and you'll have power windows. So really excited about this. Now on my car, my project car, Ruby, I will not be running a wind wing. I'll be running one-piece glass. So there will be glass going up and down over here. So I may have a little bit of clearance issues with that motor, but if you run in a wind wing, you got no problem because the glass is only going up and down over here. I'll cross that bridge when I come to it with my car, but I really wanted to show you guys this. I've been thinking about this and I knew I could do it, and turns out I was right. So pretty happy. Power windows for 24 bucks a window. Okay guys, that pretty much wraps up this video on getting power windows into GMA body on the cheap. So 35 bucks, pretty sweet deal. You know, this really wasn't that hard of a project. Really, the hardest part was getting the window regulator in and out all those times. Now, I did a lot of testing, so you guys don't have to. So, you know, I had it in and out several times just to figure things out and make sure it was working right. You guys don't have to do that. Just follow along with what I did. Once you get it tacked together and bench tested it, then you can basically do your final welds, install it, and you got power windows for 35 bucks a corner, really. So I think it worked out wonderfully, saving you guys some money, saving me some money, and you know what parts are in it now. So if the window motor goes out, you know right where to get one, and you don't have to go back to the manufacturer you got your kit from, right? So that's another savings for you. So I'm thrilled to be able to do this, and I'm glad you know, I had this rattling around in my head, and it turns out it was right all along, so it worked. Thanks for joining me here at Foothill Paint and Fabrication. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Mash that bell and drop me a comment. I'd love to hear from you. We'll see you on the next one.